Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Taking this issue forward on why Constitution of India for public administration, one of those interesting issues currently right now in the Supreme Court of India is the issue on the rights of the LGBTQ community. Uh, though this is a current issue in the Supreme Court of India, and by the time this course is going to be offered, we should have some kind of a decision on the same. You will notice that in 2018, the background was laid down in terms of should a homosexual consensual adult sex be a crime. Uh, the court in this case is in particular matter of providing equality to all kinds of persons. Could be transgenders, could be lesbians and gays. And of course, this is a kind of a new challenge in terms of what public policy is. The legislature should take a stance. The legislature should bring about legislation looking at this kind of a issue in the society. It's been there for quite some time, but unfortunately, because the legislature has not been able to address this issue, there is a vacuum or a gap that is there between recognition of these communities and their rights as against those kinds of harassment that this community faces due to existence of some very traditional archive colonial law. The main point of determination in the Navtej Johar versus Union of India case, actually, it is most particularly against the Secretary Ministry of Law and Justice, actually. This was again a constitutional bench that decided this case. And in particular, the question was on Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code 1860, which was made by the Britishers. It continues to be the foundational criminal law in the land, which actually decides what kind of actions will be considered as a criminal offense, and thereby provides for a punishment. Interestingly, Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code actually punishes a person for unnatural sex. And under unnatural sex, anal sex, and other kinds of sex can be actually brought about in the same. It was kind of considered and challenged with the court of law that this section will largely affect the LGBT community or those who are same-sex couples. And that is the reason that it was taken before the Supreme Court of India. And they did say that, keeping this kind of a provision of law right now is not in favor of public policy. So you will notice that, public administration through the system of police or what we call as policing is very, very important, because in a democracy, you do not want the police to be moral policing or becoming the moral brigade, as the case were, especially when issues of adults are involved and their privacy is actually brought into question. So I think, most of what the Constitution does is actually regulates the police state, makes the police state a far more humane institution or an agency of the state. So the use of khaki and the use of uniform has to be pro-people. It has to be based on the rule of law. And I think certain sections of the community always fear the police. Now, this is very common in our society that the more poor you are, the more fearful are you of the law. Legal system or courts or police are not something that can be easily accessed to. Because in India, when we say access to justice, where does a common man access this justice to? So the police is not a welcoming institution. The judiciary is quite a distant institution. People don't know how to approach these two institutions for justice. And hence, the court was asked this question: should Section 377 be still applicable? And the court, in this case, you will notice that did come up and hold Section 377 unconstitutional. They said, we have to decriminalize certain parts of Section 377. And the court did say that, look, it is important that when you are an adult and when there is a consensual sexual act between these adults, any kind of interference by law and creating an offense regarding the same would be clearly in violation of Article 14, 15, 19, and 21. So they did say that to that extent, Section 377 should be read down. And you will notice that while Section 377 deals with other kinds of unnatural sex, it could be sex with a minor, or it could be a non-consensual sex, and so on and so forth. So in those circumstances, one will have to take due note and consideration of as well. So I think the LGBT community did find some kind of respectability in society to their sexual orientations through this judgment, and holding such kind of adult consensual act to be an offense was definitely something that had to be taken care of. So I think it's very important that such kinds of cases speak about the freedom of a particular community, be it the transgenders who probably are waiting to be respected by a given society, be it the right of a particular community, which is a community that probably fears to express or speak. I think the legal system and the public policy must come forward in recognizing some of their rights. And I think that is precisely what the Supreme Court tried to do in this particular case. So I think, what the Supreme Court very clearly holds in this Navtej Johar case is that the rule of equality clearly means that all persons should be treated equally, irrespective of their sexual orientations. And that, I think, is the premise of the constitutional basis of public policy when it comes to the LGBT community. However, you will notice that the current debate about recognizing same-sex marriages has its own challenges, and I think the challenges are before the Supreme Court of India about, will that be recognized under personal law, or should it be recognized under the Special Marriage Act? And if it is done so, what kind of repercussion can it have on the rights arising from marriage, especially in terms of, say, adoption, custody, maintenance, divorce, succession, and so on and so forth. So all of these have been something that one will have to take note and consideration of. Following the last point, and just to emphasize about why this constitution reading and application of the principles of constitution are so very important for each one of us in this course, and to kind of look into the rights of individuals, because public administration has this very interesting dilemma about who will decide what is good for the society. Of course, people in power would like to take this call, but where do they draw their line between doing public good or causing public harm? So I think the recent case of Arnab Goswami, a journalist from the Republic TV, who was arrested in Bombay, with the state of Maharashtra, is actually case in point. See, in India, press freedom has been protected under Article 19(1)(a). Now, press is considered as one of the strongest pillars of protecting democracy. It's the fourth pillar in democracy, apart from what we have as the three pillars or three organs of the government. So, press has been protected. Press has been given a lot of rights. The freedom of the press is paramount, and you will notice that this has been a constitutional principle in India. However, you would notice that unfortunately, there is an allegation on Arnab Goswami that he actually wounded some religious sentiments on his channel Republic TV during a show, and this was the reason why he was asked to appear before the police, and later on he was arrested for the same. So you will notice that you know press have a tendency of breaching the principles of neutrality at times, and they get carried away by making certain bold statements or sensational news that is created, and sometimes this can be impactful. But you will notice that in this case, while everything was important, but arresting the journalist for making such kind of expressions on his own TV channel was a little bit of a far stretching action of the police. I think you will notice that the court in this case came down very heavily on the Mumbai police. And they said that, look, we need to shield a journalist from the coercive action of the state. And they did come to the rescue of Arnab Goswami. And, the kind of threat that the police or the khaki can actually give becomes a kind of a threat for expression of your freedom or your idea. So I think the court, while granting the bail, very clearly said that what was done in this case was done in an in a very malified manner, which actually infringes on the freedom of speech and expression and the freedom of the press. And you can't in any sense say that arresting a journalist would be an answer from what the police should have done in this particular matter. So I believe that cases like this very clearly show why the principles of the constitution are very, very relevant and important. And it also shows to a larger extent that it is the benchmark of protection of human rights. And that, I think, goes to a larger extent of protecting the rights of ordinary citizens, because the press is considered to actually be the most important agency that not only gives you information but also holds the government and its agencies accountable for their action. So, quite an important point that was made in this case, and I believe that this very clearly will tell you why constitution, constitutional principle, constitutionalism is the way to govern and bring in public administration and also determine what is the public policy of the land. I think we can now take this forward in trying to get into the basic premise of the Constitution itself. I think we should understand Constitution as it were, and reading the Constitution is trying to lay down public administration. So let's start by reading the preamble of the Constitution. Now, you notice, friends, that the preamble of the Constitution is the starting or the opening part of the Constitution, and it clearly displays, like N.A. Palkiwala, eminent jurist and a constitutional expert, he said the preamble is the identity card of the Constitution. The preamble is the identity card of the Constitution. And interestingly, the American Constitution was the first to begin with the preamble, and many countries then followed the same. Usually, the preamble may contain a summary, it may contain a vision document, it could be the objectives of the Constitution, as it were. And the Indian preamble was kind of given to us by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and this was given by him and adopted by the Constituent Assembly. And you will notice that he kind of wrote what this preamble is. And do not forget that the preamble also has been amended, which was the 42nd Amendment, the mini constitution that was introduced in 1976. And three words were added to the preamble. And those three words are socialist, secular, and the word integrity. Okay, so that is what has been written as the preamble. So three words being added. I think three crucial and important words were added. Now, if you see this slide, do you find the word socialist? Do you find the word secular? And do you find the word integrity? The answer is no, which means, friends, this is the original preamble and not the preamble as it stands today. So I think as it stands today, these three words play a very important role. And I think, what we see from the reading of the preamble is, one, it talks about we, the people of India, have solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. And this is our Constituent Assembly on the 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. So I think the first thing that you see from reading this, you notice that the preamble gives you the following four things. First, it tells you the source of authority for this Constitution and who and where is the source of authority to this Constitution. The preamble says that the source of authority for this Constitution is we the people. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two, it clearly says what is the nature of the Indian state or the Indian country. What is our country? First, friends, our country is sovereign. Second, our country is secular, democratic, and we also declare that we are a polity which is a republic of its own. Third, you will notice that what are the objects of the Constitution? What does the Constitution attempt to protect, progress, and nurture? I think very clearly you will notice that the Constitution objective is very specific. We want justice, we want liberty, we want equality, and we want fraternity. And finally, friends, you will notice that this Constitution was adopted on November 26, 1949, and came into effect on January 26, 1950. So these are the key words. However, friends, each of these key words, right, has a very important, kind of meaning to it. For example, I think the word sovereign that is used. Okay, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Now, friends, what does sovereignty or sovereign mean in the actual sense? It very clearly means, friends, that India is neither dependent nor dominated by any nation. We are our own nation in whatever sense it is. So, sovereign means that you are an independent state. You do not have any foreign rule. You don't have a foreign master. You rule on your own, and that is what it actually means. So the country being sovereign, the people being sovereign, which very clearly means I do not have anyone above me to rule on me, and there is no authority to whom I am accountable and I am responsible. Though international law has to be respected, international law or the United Nations are not something that govern me, and they are not my authority in that sense. Now, please note, when we talk about sovereignty, we also mean that you're sovereign not only internally but also externally, right? So you can determine what are the best affairs or policies that you wish to undertake, and you can determine how best to implement any of these policies of your own. So I think when the people decide sovereignty, they decide among themselves. So good or bad, they have to accept it, right? And I think it was important in 1949 to say that we are a sovereign nation because we wanted to part away from the British Crown. And we very clearly said that we did not want to have anything with the British Crown. Though we are a member of the United Nations, we are probably a very important member of the UN organizations and the UN Charter. India will decide what it wishes to do on its own territory. That's what sovereign actually means. So we are bound to protect the territory of this land because it belongs to us, and we are bound to decide what is the best policy on the territory of India. So I think no such territory in India now belongs to a foreign ruler. I think we are entirely and completely sovereign. So be it Arunachal Pradesh or be it Goa for some time, which was actually under Portuguese rule. I think the entire country now stands to be sovereign, including the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Second, the word socialist. Uh, Again, whether we are a socialist country or a capitalist country, I think this is a controversy that is going to go not so easily out. Socialism, when it was brought about in 1976 by the 42nd Amendment, it very clearly meant that we wanted our society to have the principles of socialism. You are a socialist in the sense that you do not believe that wealth or resources shall be concentrated in the hands of only a few individuals. Socialism means the welfare of all, and I think the difference between haves and have-nots have to be reduced by the state, and it also means that all means of production and distribution of all kinds of material wealth must be done as equally as possible. Every citizen shall have a contribution in the economy. Every citizen should be able to benefit from the economy. And the idea of socialism was to actually eradicate poverty, to eradicate diseases from the society, which means that every person should be able to access the public healthcare system equally. So it's not the ones who are able to afford it should alone be able to access it. Socialism is also about the equality of opportunity, which every person should get in public employment. So I think to some extent, we were influenced by Marxism and Gandhism, and I think leaning heavily towards the Gandhian philosophy. I think the socialism or socialist pattern of society was actually introduced in the Indian constitution. So socialism also meant that the state shall take responsibility to distribute goods and services equally to all citizens, and for which you will notice that India did start, or the government of India did start producing goods and services and providing them to the citizens as well. Even today, you will notice that through socialism and the public distribution system, or what we call as the PDS system, certain essential food grains are also being distributed to the communities and the society. So, socialist very clearly is a matter of public policy, though I believe that post liberalization, globalization, and privatization in 1991, the concept of socialism has changed quite dramatically in this country. And you will notice that today privatization is possible, liberalization of the economy has already happened, globalization is inevitable. So socialism has changed, and I think that's very good in terms of saying that the aspirations of the community is not to go either for an entire capitalism or entire socialism. I think a blend of both these two is what the nation is implementing as a matter of public policy. One other aspect that one would want to bring about at this point of time is the concept of even a public-private partnership. A lot of these public projects, which were actually something that was started due to socialism or socialistic pattern of governance, where the state would run even an airport or an airline. You will notice that this has undergone some kind of a transformation, and that is very important. So either the airline has been privatized because the state has no business in running an airline or running a loss-making airline, because the taxpayers' money is unfortunately getting drained in such kind of matters. But the airports being under PPP mode or trying to make it privatized so that citizen consumer-centric benefits are also brought into place is another dynamic model of socialism that we see today. And I think to some extent, the idea of profit for private businesses can be controlled and regulated by the system. Or it could be saying that let private and public come as together in a partnership in developing infrastructure in this country. So that is also a critical component of what you call as the socialist aspect. Please note, the Indian form of socialist governance is not the communist form of socialist governance. Please note, in India, while we think there is socialist or socialism, it is democratic socialism that is applicable, which means I think the community or the majority of the population will decide the directions of socialism. That's very important. So it is democratic socialism. It's not communist socialism or any kind of extreme socialism. That was the philosophy of Marx. So I think it's important to even make that kind of a distinction, because what we believed is in socialism, friends, at one point of time, I think there was so much of strict influence of socialism that we went for nationalization of banks, which was called the bank nationalization case. But then we realized that that may not be the correct model, and hence you will notice that that kind of nationalization was reversed and continues to be, revisited quite interestingly by the government from time to time. So the kind of credentials that the Indian state would want to have is that the private sector is also an equal participant in the growth of the country. So it is not an exclusive domain of the state alone. I think the state is merely not going to participate, but is just going to regulate. So the state always has this obligation of regulation. But should the state also be a participant in that kind of a business or in that kind of goods or service that is to be provided? I think the state has very clearly made a choice about what is the best public administration when it comes to extracting resources, distributing those resources, and probably bringing about efficient use of the same resources. So that is where socialism is there.